All right, friends, we can go ahead and get started for tonight. If more people join us, that's awesome. Just a reminder that we do videotape these, and then we'll post them to the website. I have the website up just as a reminder, and it's also on our swag, our U-PRISE swag. It's just ucfsd.org/u-prize to get to the site. On here we have our main page where I put the 2018-19 feedback survey for this year. So if you have any feedback and you'd like to provide it, here's the place. You can also always email us. We're also on Twitter. And we also have a U-PRISE email, which is just uprise@ucfsd.net. Just a reminder, Advisory Committee met today. We got some great feedback from them for suggestions for next year. But again, you can provide feedback on the survey. We are continuing to run our community resources page, just as a reminder. So here we have linked, May is Mental Health Month, so that pops up really large. But we have linked all of our resources. So we had the Community Resources Fair in January this year. All of the vendors who were there and speakers are listed. You can see there's links posted. We have our U-PRISE school parent liaisons listed, and we actually have one parent liaison here tonight from Hillendale Elementary. Mr. Brogan is here. Thanks. So if you ever need something, or if you know of a new family that moves in, these are the people to connect them with. Then we have posted all of our, not district sponsored, but just events in the community that have been shared with us, resources for you. So you can always check that. We try and keep that posted. We do have some new updates that are going to go in next week. And there's family resources too, things that don't go away, that don't expire. So you can always check those out as well. One other point to remember is the speaker series are posted. So like I said, we videotape these. So earlier this year, we had the mental health, anxiety and mental health. So that's linked here if you wanted to watch the video, and the resources are posted. So same as tonight, we will post our presenters' PowerPoints if you wanted to refer back to them. And we'll have a video of tonight's meeting. So if any of your friends missed it and they wanted to see it, you can refer them back to the website. But before we get into the meeting, we do have lots of great things to talk about tonight. Tonight's topic is self-advocacy. We're really lucky. We have some great speakers. We have Sean Bastian, who is a 2017 UHS grad and who is now a student at Westchester University, here to talk to us tonight. So thank you, Sean, for coming out. We have Karen King, who's a Chadsford Elementary School teacher, and she brought some support from Chadsford, so thanks for coming to cheer her on. We have Sue Mott and Katie Windle, who are going to present together from Unionville High School. Thank you, ladies. And we have Kim Cole, who is a Patan, or Patton, however you choose to say it, consultant, so she's here to provide some information for us on self-advocacy, and she brought a ton of resources for you guys that are in the back if you want to take any of those. I don't think she wants to carry them all back. Maybe we'll keep some here too. If anyone would like those, we can keep them in district office. Just real quick, I wanted to throw out there, if anyone had any ideas before we get started, just for topics for next year, if anybody had anything pressing that they thought would be a great topic for next year, to give you the opportunity to throw it out now. If not, you can always think about it and put it on the feedback survey, or you can email us. Otherwise, then I think we're ready to jump right into self-advocacy. So we're going to start with Sean. He's going to come up here first. And I told him I had to embarrass him just a little bit. So I have some pictures from his graduation. So there he is. It was around Christmas time, I think, right? In the winter. So Mr. Connolly is in his Eagles Christmas gear here. But there's Mr. Nolan and Mr. Connolly giving him his diploma. I think these were some of your favorite teachers. I see Mrs. Mott's up there. Yes. And then I had to get a selfie with you too, just for fun, right? So I can leave that up there as a background if you'd like, or I can take it down.
No, you can leave it up there. Like, I need the embarrassment once in a while.
So would you like to sit, or would you like a microphone?
I'll sit.
Okay, go right ahead.
Yeah. Hello, testing. Hi, I am Sean Bastian. As Shannon said, I am a UHS grad, and I'm currently at Westchester as part of this programming called DCAP, which is Parents in an Autistic Program. yes, I am autistic, like, hence the CERT. Like, so, like, I'm here to tell you people about self-advocacy. Like, now, like, for those of you who might have, like, kids, I kind of want to tell you, like, one big thing, like, if your kids are heading to college, like, I was happy to get this, like, when I finished high school, is there's this program you should join called Aspire. Like, Miss Banks could tell you a little about it, too, if you need to, like, and it's just a great program. It shows your kids, like, really what college is like. And trust me, it's not parties and drinking all the time. Like, yeah. So now, speaking of college, like, this past year, I had a recent incident that really kind of, I feel like lots of you can learn from when it comes to self-advocacy. So, throughout my life, I've had many different kind of teachers. I've had good teachers. I've had bad teachers. I've had teachers that like me. I've had teachers that don't like me. I've had teachers that I don't like. But for the first time, like, in my entire life, there was this one teacher where he was completely disrespectful. Like, so it was just this semester, like, originally I had 5 classes, one of which was computer science. Like, now the teacher I had, he was kind of like an old guy. Like, he seemed like kind of to be almost the president of his field. Like, so, and like, it came to like this one day where like it was like a lab, like where we would do some programming. Now in class, like, he kind of was telling everyone this like instant fact, like, that could maybe help us, but the way he kind of said it, it sounded like just like a fact. It seemed like, oh, it wasn't a command that we had to do. It was like, oh, here's something you can do if you want to. It might help. Like, so later on, like, I'm like struggling with part of this like lab that we have to do. So of course I call him over to ask him a nice question. And what ended up happening is he literally like yells at me, like with like no respect, like he just yells at me, like, and asks why I didn't do his instant fact. Like, and I tell him, well, like, I have my own way of doing this, like, and like he's like, no, you have to do this instant fact. Like, so, like, and literally, like, the way he yelled, it brought me to tears. Like, and I never been brought to tears, like, in school ever. Like, so, like, it was just, like, a heartbreaking thing for me. Like, and that that was just the worst part of it. Like, because then, like, later on in the year, like, I start to get over it, but then I email him asking for a sheet of paper that I need for his class. So like, I email him, and he literally sends me back the paper, but then says, next time, maybe you'll tell me the class, like, instead of thinking that I know everybody's name. Like, and I was just taken back from that. Like, so, like, there's another thing, and literally, like, throughout the year, this teacher's been making me, like, feel like I can't even do college. Like, so what did I do? I had to just drop it. I couldn't go on the rest of the year feeling like I couldn't even do it. So, now the nice thing about this was, like, and weirdly enough, there is a nice part, like, so after a while, like, some of the people at DCAP, like, actually went online and showed me this website, which, trust me, like, tell your kids about it, like, it will help them get through college. It's called Rate My Professor, and what it basically is if you type whoever the professor they have is, like, it will show you a bunch of reviews from other students, like, and usually there's like 3 levels. There's either good, average, and then poor. And trust me, when they showed me like my computer teacher on this website, there was literally only one good review out of 20 reviews. Like, and pretty much, you guessed it, the rest were completely poor. Like, and seriously, I read the reviews and they were exactly the same things that I was feeling. Like, so, literally, like, after that, like, I was able to, under, I was able to use this website to decide on who are the best professors for me to take, and like parents, if I never really advocated and told people about this, I probably would have gone this whole year almost wanting to literally quit college. like so that's really how important self-advocacy is. Sometimes it could, if you don't do it, it could literally make you feel like you want to just end it all. So really, really tell your kids if you had them my story, because trust me, I told them to a lot of my cousins and stuff, and they literally are so inspired by that story. So thank you.
What do you want to say?
Yeah.
Let's open it up to questions. Do people have questions about Sean's experience or about how he learned his self-advocacy skills? I have a question. Where do you feel like you learned how to self-advocate as a student?
It's a lot of places. Of course, Mrs. Mott's over there taught me a little on how to do it. Aspire taught me a little. Decap taught me, and some of it was even self-education. Some of it, kind of like that whole computer class situation. I literally I didn't really think about self-advocacy. I literally just did it because I didn't know what else to do. Whether to self-advocate for myself or just keep crying over this. Yeah.
What has been the most challenging thing about college for you?
Sometimes it's time management. I'm kind of a fun guy. No, I'm not a mushroom. Yeah, time management is a very hard thing. Balancing having fun and doing work. But yeah, I've had a lot of help with from friends and the staff at DCAP and my family and all the other friends I made. So yeah, mostly it's just really time management that sometimes trips me up a little.
Does everyone know what DCAP is? Do you want to tell them what DCAP
so
is?
DCAP, it stands for Dub C Autism Program, and basically at Westchester, if your kid's autistic, it's a great program to be in. You get to have your kid meet other people that have sort of the same kind of quirks that your kid does. So it's just a great way to kind of feel like you relate to a whole community. And hey, if I wouldn't have made the cert if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, you helped design that particular
Yes.
shirt, right?
Yes, me and a couple of the members at DCAP created a shirt, which if you want, you can actually after the summer purchase it at the WCU Ram Shop. Yes, please support autism. We may be quirky, but we're very awesome. Oh, so
Well, I can read
Yeah.
them for you if you want.
I can. So there's a bunch of quotes on the back of my shirt, and so some of them are acceptance without judgment can break down any wall. like, I have a quote up there that says, like, autism doesn't define me, even though it's a huge part of me. And then some other ones are like, there's no need for a cure, and like, I'm proud to be autistic. So yeah, and, like, those are just some of the quotes like that are on the back.
Why did you pick the turtle?
Oh, well, that was actually one of the members. I don't really, you'll have to ask him, but he said that like a turtle is supposed to represent autism. Like, don't really know how, but like that's like I trust him. Like, to just like, unless he just did that for the I like turtles meme. Like, in in that case, then like I have to have a good talking with him.
Sean, oh, I'm sorry. Have you ever found yourself on the other side of advocacy where you've had to help somebody else and you've been able to help another student advocate for themselves?
I think so. I don't really remember, like, if I really did, but I'm pretty sure at maybe some point I did actually, like, maybe had a case where, like, someone literally, like, was struggling to do something, and I just, like, couldn't, like, sit there and, like, let them, like, go on. Like, I need to, like, get them maybe some help. Like, I can't really remember, but I'm sure at some point I had that happen.
Besides for DCAT or with DCAT, what are some of your best resources or places that you've gone to for help or areas at Westchester which you find the best benefit from, either teachers or offices or something like that?
Definitely take use of office hours. They really help. Like, even though some teachers may not seem like they're giving help. Like, and there, if you go to Westchester, there's a place called OSSD, like, and stands for the Office of Students with Disabilities. Like, so that's where you get like accommodations. There's a career development center where you can have mock interviews and help making like a resume. Like, so, like, that's really just a great resource. Like, and like mostly just like it's best to just like at the start of classes to start making friends with classmates, because like they're also there like if you need them. Like, my parents, like, there's some classes that I've taken that like I wish I like made a friend earlier so I can get some help. Yeah.
Any other questions for Sean? Sean, I'd like to thank you for coming out. I know you're in the midst of finals and a lot of other things, so we really appreciate you coming back to your alma mater to speak. We're happy to see you.
Well, I miss being here.
We're very proud of you. We know you're doing good things.
I really wish I could sneak in here again and like repeat my freshman year. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you.
All right. And up next, we'll have Miss Kay. If you want to come up, we'll pull up. Okay. We'll take down these lovely graduation photos. All right.
Okay. So my name's Karen King. I am the 4th and 5th grade learning support teacher at Chadds Ford Elementary School. Shannon asked me to come and share with you all some of the activities that I do with my 4th and 5th graders to help them develop their self-advocacy skills. So I believe one of the most important skills that a student can develop is self-advocacy. And it's defined as the ability to ask for support when it is needed in order to be successful and independent. So one way that this year or actually I've been doing it for quite a while now, one way that I actually help my students develop their self-advocacy skills is by sitting with them and talking to them about their goals that they have on their IEPs. And I do this with my 4th and my 5th graders. And we spend a lot of time going through their goals, and I share their progress with them. And they actually will, flip over. Flip. They'll actually record their progress once every other week on their IEP goal chart. So, and when they are graphing their goals, if they notice that their progress is slipping, if some of the data points are below the goal line, we actually sit and we'll talk about different interventions that they can use. And that could be anything from, if they're doing a fluency goal, if they have a fluency goal, it might be using a tracker. Or if they're doing a writing piece, it might be letting them know that maybe using a self-editing checklist might help them. If they have like a behavior goal that maybe they need to ask for more breaks because they're having issues in class, then it would be letting them know, well, maybe you might need a visual that says, I need a break. So we spend a lot of time talking about their goals and graphing their goals, and so they actually feel like a sense of empowerment when they see the progress that they're making on their goals. So as you can see, this is the IEP goal charts that I use with the students, and then this right here is their goal sheet with their goal listed, and then they actually graph the progress on their goals. So, and they really enjoy doing it. They always remind me, Mrs. King, don't forget, we got to graph our goals. And after we're done doing the progress monitoring and stuff that I do with them, then they pull out their goal sheets and we graph them. So that has really helped them a lot. So this year I decided to try something new. I'm on the special ed curriculum cycle, and I'm on the transition committee, and I'm the only elementary school teacher on that committee. And the other teachers are middle school and high school teachers, and I kind of felt like I was a fish out of water in a way, because I didn't know why I was actually on this committee, being that we don't do a whole lot of transitions in elementary school. And then as I started talking to the teachers on the committee, I found out that a lot of the students who have IEPs, when they're in 7th and 8th grade, they're invited to attend their IEP meetings and be a participant in those meetings. And a lot of the teachers were told, at this committee meeting, said that the kids will sit in the meetings and not really say anything. So I thought, well, why not get the kids, to start doing this, or at least understanding the process of an IEP and what an IEP meeting is in the younger grades. And since we do 5th to 6th grade transition meetings in the elementary school, I thought, why not include the kids in their meetings? And instead of having them physically sit there, I thought, why not do a video of the kids talking about themselves? And I thought it would be a great opportunity for the middle school teachers who are present at those meetings to put a face with the name, so then they would at least see Johnny or Sarah in the hallway and kind of remember, oh, that's who Johnny is, or that's who Sarah is. And at the same time, it also allowed me to sit and talk with the kids about what the IEP meeting process is like. And I told them that, that someday when they're in 7th and 8th grade, they would actually be at those meetings, and I would hope that they would speak up and tell the team all the things that works for them. So this year, that's what I did. I decided to have them do their own videos. So I've got 2 of my friends, Shane and Suyag, and their videos, and each of the videos were played at their transition meetings that I had last week. So I don't know if hopefully it works. The sound.
Let me try.
I did the volume on here.
I'm a 5th grader at Chad's Ford Elementary School. My favorite subject.
That's just coming out of here, right?
Oh.
So let's be crafty. I don't know where Jen went.
Go.
Can you hear that?
Hi, my name is Shane. I'm a 5th grader at Chad's Ford Elementary School. My favorite subject in school is computers. Some of the things that I like to do after school is watch a little TV, play a game, or take a nap. I started a special education program when I was in 1st grade. I'm really good at singing and math. Still need a little help with ELA, especially in writing. Here are some things that I think have helped me. Taking breaks, using voice text writing with a Chromebook. I enjoy being in a separate room to take tests. I like to go take a little reading for a break. And at the end of the day, I like using computers. One goal I have for 6th grade is to make a few friends and be a little bit of a writer. I hope to see you in middle school next year. Bye!
So that's Shane.
Could you hear that okay?
So as you can see, he actually talked about all the different things. He struggles with writing, and he did, all of this is from them. They're all saying the things that help them. So it was interesting to hear some of the things that they would say, because then I kind of agreed with them. Obviously, some of the suggestions that he was saying, he felt that he does enjoy taking tests outside of the room. I wasn't sure if he did, but he actually said he actually enjoys doing that. So I thought that was interesting. And then there's Suyag.
My name is Shivnima. I'm a 5th grader at Chatsford Elementary School. My favorite subject in school is math. Some of the things that I like to do after school are play games and play ball. I started in the Learn the Play program when I was in 2nd grade. I had a really hard time with reading. I'm really good at math and computer. I still need help with reading and writing. Here are some things I have helped me. I like to work alone and not in groups. Love noise batteries are weird and going. When I get frustrated, I will ask for a break, like going for a walk in the sensory room. I really learned best at the high table on a movable chair. One goal I have for 6th grade is again go to grade. Looking forward to middle school. See you in a few months.
And that was Suyag. I know he kind of mumbled a little bit of some of the things that he likes that help him, but he did say, and he does not like to work in groups. He prefers to work alone and on his own, and he wanted to make sure that everybody knew that at the team, that was something that he just preferred doing. So finally, I think as parents, one way that you can actually help your child develop their self-advocacy skills is to really help them understand their disability and what they struggle with. On top of that, just even understanding what accommodations can help them to be successful, because I think the more that they are aware, the better advocates they will be. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to say some questions?
Oh, yes. Questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Karen?
Yes, Sean.
So, like, for these, like, IEP goals, like, this is kind of like a multi-part question. Like,
Yeah.
So, first of all, like, how many goals do you, like tell them to, like, think of?
So the goals that we graph are goals that are from their IEP. So they also come up with their own, they have one goal that they kind of come up with on their own. So I just have them write one goal specifically for them. But the other goals that they're graphing are from their IEP. So they're like reading goals or math goals or writing goals, or sometimes they're behavior goals too.
Alright, and then the other thing is that, like, so, like, do you, like, see, like, when I'm, like, in DCAP, like,
Yeah.
my like, skills specialist, that's kind of like the person that helps me come up with these goals.
Oh,
Kinda
okay.
has me come up with, like, end of the year goals,
Ooh.
and also, like, weekly goals. So
Weekly
do
goals,
you
too.
kind of-
That's a good idea. I need to do something like that, because I think a lot of times it takes a really long time for some of the kids to reach the goals that they make, that they come up with, because they kind of are thinking ahead, way, way ahead. But maybe doing something like what you just said, Sean, would help them if I help them come up with maybe a weekly goal or even a monthly goal. And then if they reach it, then that would be a great thing.
And then maybe, like, the goal can kind of, like, be, like, something related to their, like, whole year.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. That will help. Appreciate it. Yes.
Is this available to all the elementary schools, or is this something that you just do at Chatsworth?
I just started it this year. It was just something that I thought about trying it out, and I emailed my parents and told them if they were okay with me doing this with their child and doing a video and then putting it on the putting it up at the meetings. And all my parents were like, yeah, this is great. I think it would be a great idea. So it was just the first time I did it was this year, actually last week. So it was, I'm assuming down the road, I don't know if it's something that they're going to do in the other elementary schools, but it was just something that I tried this year. Yeah, thanks.
Comment a little bit on that. The transition subcommittee that Karen referenced is actually one of the subcommittees that I participate in. And we're working through the curriculum cycle, so it may be a recommendation that comes out of that subcommittee. That would be. It won't be on the video. So again, that subcommittee is something that will be making recommendations to sort of the district at large. And I given the success that Karen has had, it was something we talked about and thought would be a great addition. So it will hopefully be something that we can encourage other teachers to use. One of the other things that it will help support is our ESSA requirements for artifacts. So I don't know how much you all know about that. This isn't really the forum for that. But each year, especially those like 5th, 8th, and then our high schoolers have to have a certain amount of career readiness. And this is really one of the ways that we can document as a school team how our students at the elementary level are developing those skills as related to self-advocacy, because we know that's definitely something that will allow them to be successful in the future. So coming soon would be the short answer. I gave you the long one though.
Any other questions?
for Kayla?
Okay.
Great.
Thank
so
you.
much, Kayla.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sue and Katie, I'll give you the stage. I'll get out of your way. You can use my computer and just move yourself forward. Your mics are on.
Okay. So I'm Sue Motz.
And I'm Katie Wendell, and we work at UHS.
Yes, we both teach in the special ed department at the high school. And we wanted to kind of present from a perspective of the upper level, the middle school, high school, in terms of self-advocacy.
Right. So what we're going to do first is a kind of interactive icebreaker activity that's kind of about making choices to kind of get you guys moving a little bit, because we've been sitting for a while. So
Don't give it away.
we're going to play a game called Would You Rather. And we're gonna
So everybody can stand
so
up.
let's stand up for this game.
Start brain break.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So for this game, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of divide up. We're going to ask you a question where you have to just make a simple choice. And if you like one choice versus another, we're going to ask you to go to one side of the room. And if you like the opposite choice, you'll go to the other side of the room.
And if you're not sure, just pick the one that you're closest
Just pick the
to.
one you're
Yeah.
closest to. All right. Okay, so would you rather skip breakfast or dessert? So if you would rather skip breakfast, go to this side of the room. If you'd rather skip dessert, go to this side of the room. All
All right,
right.
we're pretty split on that. That's
Yeah, we
good.
are
Yep,
pretty split. I'm
even.
surprised.
That was a tough decision for me. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that is a tough decision. Okay, next one. Would you rather have a long winter or a long summer? Long winter on this side, long summer on this side. Oh, there we go. You can really tell who's an education professional.
Not afraid to stand alone. I like that.
Sean likes
yeah.
the cold.
Yeah.
I never get cold.
Sean, I'm from Alaska. I had the long winter. I don't need any.
All right. Do you prefer going to a loud concert or a quiet museum? Loud concert on this side, quiet museum on this side.
A really good loud concert or
Yeah.
a really good museum.
Obviously, you're going to a place of your preference, right? Okay. Would you rather live in the city or in the country?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Last question. Would you rather complete tests alone or with a group?
So work alone, work with the group.
Yeah.
But you're not.
In a group. Okay, so So the reason why we did this activity is because you all made choices that fit you and your preferences, and self-advocacy is really all about picking what works for you and what your preferences are, and knowing how to talk about what those choices you make are, and knowing how to talk about what your preferences are, and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And really, it's essentially just making choices about what's going to work for you in your life and in your situation.
And think about the feeling of empowerment you have over being able to be in charge of those choices too. And you know, we kind of threw in some questions that had a little bit to do with kind of, you know, sensory, the loudness, the city versus the country, and just some of the things that some of our students have to make choices on, what kind of a work environment they might want to work in someday, what kind of friend group they might want to be with. So these are all things that sort of loosely tied into things that that we might face every day with some of our students too.
You guys can sit back down.
Yes.
If you prefer to stand, you know, if that's more your preference, that's fine too.
Those of you that want to stand. Stand. Okay.
Flexible seating. All right, do you want to talk then? Sure.
Okay. And we have covered this a little bit, but we just wanted to touch base on what is self-advocacy and what does it look like. It can be, it's really just in a general sense, it's representing your views, your own personal views and interests, being able to speak up for yourself, being able to get what you need at any given time, make your own choices, and really empowering yourself and being able to act on that. It might be a student understanding in the school setting, in an academic setting, it might be them understanding their needs, their abilities, their disability, their rights as a student and out in the community too, and how to be best served in that way. Making decisions based on information that they would need to best serve themselves. And really anything from a small daily choice to a larger kind of a life-changing choice, just regardless of what it is, self-advocacy is going to be important across the board for all students.
Now, what we really want to focus on is like, why is self-advocacy important for your child? So really we want to teach kids that to be effective decision makers, because in life you have to make a lot of decisions and a lot of choices. And if we're not teaching kids how to do that now while they're in a safe and supported environment, they might have a little bit of a harder time when they're living independently or they're in college or in a work setting. Also, being able to effectively communicate what you need and when you need it is really important. You know, a lot of times I'm always telling my kids, you know, you have to kind of tell me explicitly like what you need or what you need help with, because I can't guess. Like, I need you to be specific. And I think if we can teach people how to do that in school, then they might apply that in other situations. Also, being able to access available supports when you need it and knowing that the access is there, especially, you know, as Sean mentioned with the Office of Disabilities, knowing what resources are available to you in different settings. Even within your high school, knowing, or your middle school, knowing like where the testing center is, where your case manager is located, where you can go for support or a break when you need it. Those types of skills are really important for kids to know overall.
Right, and I think too what Karen had said about the transition at the elementary level, this is one of the ways that it starts, is just giving them choices within things that are reasonable, not just open-ended choices, but maybe a choice between two things where either one of them is an okay outcome for them would be acceptable, and just really being able to allowing them to feel that self-confidence and build their confidence and being able to problem solve and make decisions for themselves when they do become more important in their lives later.
Okay, so we have a couple of videos that we found that are students who are both secondary students or older, and they're talking about kind of their experience as being a person with a disability. The first video is about a teen with a learning disability, and the second video is a teen who is blind. So I thought that these would be interesting to look at two different perspectives of people with disabilities and how they kind of handle self-advocacy. Okay.
Thinking about my LD journey, I would have to say I wish I knew about it sooner, because I didn't know I had a learning disability in math until I was in the 6th grade, and not everyone understood that I had trouble with math and trouble in school in general. And they weren't as supportive in that environment as I would have hoped they were. I tell my friends now that I do have a learning disability because I feel like that helps them understand me better, and they're very supportive, and they will help me in class and with homework a lot more than they used to. My biggest cheerleader is my grandma and my special ed teacher and my math teacher. They have always supported me no matter what, and they accept me for the way I am. Having a learning disability is stressful, but what I do to relax myself is I take a lot of breaks in class and while doing homework, and I feel like that really helps me clear my mind and get refocused. I would have to say my biggest success has been testing out of special education, and I just did that recently this year, but I chose to continue to receive the services because I know that they will help me in college. In the future, I will be going to honors college at Arizona State University, and I will study psychology. So I hope to become a psychologist who helps families. My top piece of advice for young people with LD is to just keep working hard and to never give up on what they want to accomplish, because when they overcome a struggle that they may be having, the feeling that they'll have is one of the best feelings that they will experience. My name is Savannah Trevino Casillas. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm the 2015 Ann Ford Scholar.
Hold on.
My biggest
This is like a whole channel full of inspirational videos. All right, so just here's another example of a teen with like a different type of disability and kind of how she overcame her.
good.
This one has a commercial. I'm so sorry. You can't always control YouTube.
I can personally relate to
Ooh. There we go. I'm sorry.
Alright, so how is everybody? We're more than halfway through. How are we feeling? You still excited to be here? Yeah! Well, I'm still excited to be here because my name, as Sam very eloquently said, is Abby Edwards, and I am here today to share with you the impact that self-advocacy can have on your life. Now, when most people think of self-advocacy, they think that it's just a way to get something done. When I thought of self-advocacy, I envisioned something dramatic, like a petition, like someone in Washington. I didn't know that self-advocacy could be as simple as sending an email. It wasn't until I was asked to speak about it that I realized what self-advocacy really is, a choice to take control of your life. Now that's all well and good. If it's so simple, why haven't we all done it? Maybe it's because we don't feel like it's our choice to make. We live in a world that is constantly changing. New technology and trends come out all the time, and it can give us the impression that we don't really have a say in what goes on in the world around us. I can personally relate to feeling out of control. Around 4.5 years ago, I was at a point in my life where I felt like I had no say over what happened to me. At this point, I had just lost the remainder of my vision, had just had major back surgery, and was going through a second round of IV treatments for osteoporosis. This was a time in my life where I felt like everything had been taken out of my hands. Just before my freshman year of high school, I started exploring the role that technology could have in my life. I began to utilize things like email to communicate with my teachers and to complete assignments. At some point that year, I became aware of all the opportunities that had been opened up to me, and I made the choice to embrace all that life had to offer. With renewed confidence, I communicated with the mission staff at Wright State, and then, my sophomore year, with my first ever college professors. As my confidence continued to grow, I decided to apply for a guide dog. I was approved by Guiding Eyes for the Blind and spent a life-changing summer training with my guide dog, Kathy, in New York. I got more than just a dog that summer, though. I got even more confidence because now I was able to not just talk confidently, but also to walk confidently. I carried this confidence into my junior year, and when I was having trouble in one of my psychology classes at Wright State, I was able to confidently speak with the dean of the department to resolve my problem. Everyone around me noticed how confident I felt, so my school district nominated me for a National Self-Advocacy Award. As a result of receiving this award, I was able to be a guest on a radio show, a local newscast, and had several opportunities to speak for different civic groups. Last summer, as a result of advocating for myself, I attended an independent living program that taught me invaluable skills like cooking, cleaning, things that will last me a lifetime. Looking back, I realized that it was my choice to take control of my life those 4.5 years ago that has led me to where I am today. Now, thus far, you've been sitting back listening to my story thinking, gosh, this is nice, I don't have to do anything. So this is where I would like to extend a challenge to everyone here today to come up with at least one thing that you would like to see change in your life. Ask yourself, what can I do to accomplish this? Then realize that you have the power to make that goal a reality. You will find out, as I once did, that once you start advocating for yourself, it gets easier and easier to accomplish bigger and bigger goals. Consider the impact that simply deciding to take control of your life could have on you and those around you. And don't just think of self-advocacy as a way to get things done. Think of it as a state of mind, one that will take you as far as you can imagine. Thank you.
So these are just some examples of success stories of people and students who have really learned to self-advocate for themselves so that they can reach their goals despite the fact that they have a disability. So in our schools, we really try hard to make sure that we are equipping our students with skills that will allow them to reach their goal, whether that's employment, living independently, passing the class that they're currently in. No matter how big or small the goal is, we want to make sure that we're teaching our kids every step of the way how to manage that and how to achieve what they would like to. Is there anything you want to add?
Not on the slide. No.
Okay. All right, hold on. I think we have to get back in present mode.
Yeah, hit escape.
Okay. So there are some checklists that we use with students to let them understand and let them decide and tell us where they think their strengths are and what kind of things they do, you know, whether they're doing them consistently, whether they're not doing them. And it helps us, I know at least at the secondary level, in going through an assessment and reviewing it, their answers with them helps them understand, yeah, I'm really doing pretty well in this area, but there's this one thing here that I'm not doing at all. Maybe that's a goal area for me. Maybe we need to work on a personal goal there. And we do that individually with each of the kids so that they can understand better the things that they need and the changes they need to make in order to get there.
We also, there's this great website called I'mDetermined.org that has lots and lots of valuable resources on it, lots of great visuals. And, hold on. Let me see if this link will work. This is just like an example of a checklist that we might present to one of our students where they're rating themselves and they're kind of going through each part of this. Because some of our students will be like, oh yeah, I don't really know what my goals are in my IEP. Maybe we should review that and revisit it. Or, kind of like even simple things like at school, I feel like people are listening when I talk to them. So then we can kind of help students really see where their needs are and where we might need to teach skills or where we might need to work or help them identify some areas of self-advocacy.
And as a teacher, it's helpful for me. This is a good tool for me because I might realize they didn't know as much about their IEP as I thought they did, or they know more about their rights and responsibilities than I thought they did. So it's good for us to open that communication too.
These are just some like examples of how you can use self-advocacy checklists. You know, with elementary school kids, especially that middle one is an example where it's more like a self-check, like, am I doing these things? These are some things I shouldn't be doing, so then they can kind of monitor and help self-advocate for what they do and don't need. These are just some examples of other ways to set it up. Like, this one is a goal sheet of like inventorying different areas. This one is like checking off the different it's hard to read from far away, but these are checking off like the different subject areas and the goals and needs that they have in those areas. So there's different ways to set them up. It kind of just depends on what works for the student.
And I think it's important to know too that any person, regardless of their need level of need, whether they're younger, whether they're more independent or less independent at that point in time, have a right and have the ability to make a choice in some of their decisions. You know, a student who may be not verbally communicative, there are other ways to go about it so that they can to be able to empower them and give them choices.
So this is just some examples of what self-advocacy can look like for students. And we kind of broke it down a little bit by like elementary, middle, and high school students, kind of knowing what students should be doing and what the expectations are in each area. So for elementary kids, things like asking for help, teaching children to talk about their assets, things they're good at, and things their differences, things they struggle with, encouraging independence in your child, using role play to teach problem-solving skills, stating strengths that they know, and building self-esteem. Those are some really powerful tools that can help students feel more empowered to self-advocate with their peers, towards their teachers, and kind of knowing what their needs are.
And then I think going on to the middle school level too, it's important for them to start doing some of that problem solving instead of solving problems for them, saying, that sounds really good. Here's some choices. Which one do you think would be the best one? What would happen if you chose this? What would happen if you chose this? And really starting to let them see, you know what, you can come up with these choices and you tell me what would happen, and let's figure out what's the best so that they can eventually build up the confidence to say, you know what, I have this problem, I realize these are my choices, and this is what I decided. So ultimately, by the time we get to high school, they're making more of those decisions on their own.
Should I move on to high school?
What's that?
I'll move on to high school. With regard to high school, by then the students are really immersed as part of their IEP team and are really an active participant in their meetings. They should really be able to know about their disability, their goals, what they're working on. Learning about their rights as an individual with disabilities is something that's important, like what they would be entitled to in a work setting, how to advocate if something isn't going well, evaluating like what things they're using in the classroom that are helpful, which things might need to be taken out of the IEP, what they're using, what they're actually not using, and kind of implementing some level of like self-care and realizing that they kind of need to start being in the driver's seat and sort of taking care of themselves, and that as they get older, certainly as parents, you're going to be still continuing to care for them and prompt them to some degree, but kind of giving them more and more ownership and self-choice of what they need to really take care of themselves and understand what they need in life.
And I think by high school too, instilling in them the understanding that this is why we're teaching self-advocacy. This is why you're making these choices, because it won't be long before you will be on your own, making some of these your own, on your own. So really helping them see that bigger picture down the road.
So these are just some examples of like ways you can word things for your child to teach them how to self-advocate, and kind of like using positive language to talk about like what works for them, and letting them know that it's okay for them to say like, is there something that could be helping me when they're not getting something in class? Or, can we come up with a plan to help me manage this difficult activity or this difficult task? Kind of teaching that language and helping kids feel more empowered to have the tools and the words to say what they do need. and even if your kid is nonverbal, using sentence strips, picture cues, icons, stuff like that is very important for them to be able to say, like, yes, I want this, no, I don't, kind of letting kids feel that they are in charge of communicating what their needs are. Do you have anything to add?
And if there's, even if they're at any age, if the students are working for some sort of incentive, if you meet your daily goal, what do you want to work for? What kind of thing would you like? Would you like a break? Would you like some time to do this? So just empowering them at that level too.
These are just some examples of things that you can do to self-advocate. For instance, that student we heard from in the video talked about emailing their teachers. This is something we really spend a lot of time talking about at the high school level. Like, it's not my responsibility to figure out what you missed while you were absent. We need to email the teacher. You need to be kind of in charge and in the driver's seat and asking, like, what did I miss? Or I think I turned this in. Can you double check? Those kinds of things. Making sure that they're using, like, positive statements when they're talking about themselves and their needs. Because sometimes kids really, I find as a high school teacher, feel like, oh, I'm not smart, or because I need more help. I'm not this, kind of empowering them to use the language like, it's not that I'm not smart, it's that I'm very capable, but I just need some different things or extra supports to kind of get to the goals that I want to get to, or get the A that I want to get in this class. I think really empowering kids to be positive about themselves is really important. Speaking up to teachers, approaching teachers when they need something. So often kids are too afraid to kind of go up to an adult and ask for what they need. Kind of encouraging them to be the first line of defense for themselves. And kind of just also at a younger level, being aware of, like, their schedule, their routine. Because I think as parents and as adults in general, you want to help set things up for them, but kind of really helping them, be responsible for, okay, you have sports after school today. You've got to remember to bring all the things that you have. Or, whoops, you forgot your sneakers. Looks like you're going to have to call mom and figure out how to get them here. Or, oh, I guess you're going to have to run at track in your Chucks today since you forgot your running shoes. Kind of just simple things like that, and using those kind of built-in opportunities and natural consequences to help students prepare themselves.
Right. And one other thing I wanted to add too is that sometimes I have students, especially if they struggle with communication, who may not even know it might be an assignment, or it might be a change in something, or where do I need to be for this event, but they don't know the words to ask. Like, I'm having trouble and I don't even know what my question is. And I say, that's okay. You can say that. Just go to your teacher and say, I'm having trouble with this unit and I don't even have a specific question. And that's okay to do that too, because it's a start. It's opening up a conversation, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Another piece that we really start working on at the secondary level is talking about work and what self-advocacy looks like in a work environment, or perhaps in a college environment, and kind of knowing, like, the pros and cons of disability disclosure. That's something we kind of start talking about at the high school level, like knowing that there's the Americans with Disabilities Act, that employers need to provide you with some reasonable accommodations, kind of understanding that there might be some job coaching available to you if you need it. Being able to understand that, like, sometimes there's a risk with confidentiality if you provide too much information or too much of an overshare about certain things. So I think it's important that, we're encouraging kids, yes, to be advocates for themselves, but also to know that, like, sometimes they can be in a vulnerable situation, and kind of teaching them how to manage and know what to share and when to share it and when it's appropriate to share is important too.
Right. And the same goes for a lot of this applies to students who are heading off to college after high school too. Like, who do I share my disability with? Do I talk to the Office of Disability? Do I go in there silent and not share it with anybody? Do I tell my roommate? Do I tell my RA? So deciding ahead of time, what are the, weighing the advantages and disadvantages of talking about a disability. It's a personal choice.
And then as parents, we wanted to kind of give you guys some ideas of how can you encourage self-advocacy at home. What are some things that you can do that are easy and within your day-to-day activities? Like encouraging your child to ask for help when they need it and approach you instead of you being the initiator of always supporting them automatically. teaching your child to inform family, friends, caregivers about their things that they're good at and things that they might be struggling with. Even like I used to babysit, for example, for a kid with autism, and he also had food allergies. And every time I'd be there, he'd like, remember, I have this allergy. That's even self-advocacy. We can't have this. Or, oh, remember, I don't like the TV past a certain number of volume, that kind of thing. That's even self-advocacy for different people. Using role play in your house to kind of work through challenging situations, as Sue had mentioned, kind of laying out, like, well, if you make that choice, what could be the consequences of that? Is that going to be a positive outcome, a negative outcome? Respecting your child and kind of trying to be an active listener when they are sharing about their experience, because some of us need to remember that you might not have a disability, you might not have the same experiences your child has, and very often we all experience things in very, very different ways. So it's really important when they're telling you that something is difficult to really hear them out and kind of figure out why that is and what they're really experiencing and feeling. And kind of, again, that natural consequences that Sue mentioned earlier is kind of making sure students learn how to problem solve in safe environments and learn how to deal with consequences that might be real world setups or real consequences to things they might experience. So they kind of learn how to cope and problem solve. Because it's really important, because things don't always go your way in life. You kind of need to learn how to manage and self-regulate and be an advocate for yourself in all areas. Anything else to add, Sue?
No.
Okay. And then we kind of just put together some like resources and websites that were pretty helpful for us. Patan is on there, and Patan is coming up next, but they have a lot of great resources available, lots of great handouts. Understood.org has a lot of great information for parents of students with learning disabilities. Those are just some examples of some websites that might be helpful for you.
Great. Any questions for us?
Sean?
Right. So, like, for your years of teaching, do you have any, like, students that you know that kind of, like, you could, like, represent or define what self-advocacy is?
Wow.
Well, let me see.
Besides me.
I do. And you know what? The best part of my job is to see them coming in at the beginning and going out in the end a so much more confident and well-developed person, capable. And that's what I like the best about it, is seeing them come in, seeing them transform themselves, a lot of it, on their own, learning their own skills, and being able to be self-sufficient by the time they leave. Yeah.
I agree. And actually, I feel like last week, 2 of my students were actually honored for their work with the CCIU Discover program at the Psych Student Union at Westchester. And I was just so proud of them, like watching them get an award for like something that they do every week and that they've been a part of all school year long has been really great. And it's great to see them build that self-confidence and really take ownership of their abilities and skills. So it's really, that's, I think, the most rewarding thing about this job is, we're teaching you guys skills that you're going to take out into the world and really become successful with.
And we'll end out with Kim Cole from Patan. And we'll get her presentation up.
So what's coming around right now are just some resources from I'm Determined. Sue and Katie spoke about this website in their presentation, so it is definitely something to take a look at. And what you have there, we'll talk about a little bit more in the presentation, but the components of being self-determined, and then a goal plan, a good day plan, and a one-pager. And these really are just kind of some sentence starters that can be used for your students and your children.
apologize. I'm just gonna pull up the PDF. I couldn't get your.
Oh, okay.
to work.
That's fine. No, top one. Mhm. Does that work? All right. Yeah, no, there's crazy, no connection. There you go. Okay, great. Are you going to be my clicker?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Oh, it's getting upset with me.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, we'll go to So thank you, everybody, for having me come today. It is my pleasure to be here to talk to you a little bit about self-advocacy. We did hear a lot from our presenters, Sean, Sue, and Katie, so thank you very much. Patton's mission is really the training arm of the Bureau of Special Education. So we have our initiatives from the Bureau of Special Ed, and then the Patton consultants come out and they provide technical assistance and training to intermediate units, school districts, charter schools, cyber schools across the Commonwealth. Okay, PDE's commitment is to the least restrictive environment, so our goal is for each child to ensure individualized education programming teams begin with a general education setting with the use of supplementary aids and services before considering a more restrictive environment. So today we talked about I'm determined, and these are the handouts that you have in front of you. So if you want to click, I don't know if that will click, so we're fine. We can modify. We're good. So like the girls spoke about just briefly before, I'm Determined has many resources for you to go on and explore. You can modify them for the grade level and age of your child. Okay, so it's definitely something to take a look at. The 3 handouts that I provided, the Good Day Plan, the 1-pager, and the Goal Plan. To me, I thought these would be very helpful when you're sitting down for various reasons with your child and you want to have just some conversation starters. And this is the process of getting the children to advocate for themselves and be determined. So as we go into what it means to be determined, we have some core components, and they come from the sheet in front of you here. So it's choice making. So when we talk about choices, and Sue and Katie did this when they started their presentation, they had us choose between 2 known entities. So that is making a choice. Decision making is when there's more than 2 known entities, and now we really have to choose one out of the 3 or 4 or 5 or as many as it might be. Okay? Problem solving is finding the solution. Goal setting and attainment. We've talked about this through all the presentations. It's never too early to set goals. Okay? If we think about, I want to go on vacation. If I don't have a goal or a plan of where I want to go, I'm not going to achieve that goal. So having goals and setting actionable steps, small steps to achieve the goal, that's what we want to do. So for your children who are in elementary school, a goal could be, maybe I want them just to remember to go and brush their teeth on their own without having to remind them. Well, then what are some steps that we can do to help ensure that they can do that on their own? Maybe we start with prompting, and then we move away from the prompting. And then as we move through their years, it's about them taking more ownership. As Sean showed us, being able to approach the professor and tell him you were having a difficult time. Kudos to you. Oh, okay. Other people. Yes. But that was a great thing to do. You advocated for yourself because you needed some help to achieve your goal, right? So that's what we want to teach our children to do each and every day. And then self-regulation is really being able to adjust. If something doesn't work, How can we adjust to make it work? Okay. So the components of self-determination, we've been talking a lot about the self-advocacy piece, and that is absolutely very important. So that is knowing you, your environment, and being able to take control. The internal locus control is being able to have control over the outcomes, okay? Self-efficacy and self-awareness, being able to execute our plan, and then again, being able to adjust, knowing what we like, what we don't like, who we are as individuals, your children, who they are as learners. So I do commend you for starting these transition videos. I sit on the initiative for secondary transition for Patton, and legally it's at age 14, students have to start participating in their IEP. Kudos to you because you're having them participate earlier, and that's what we want. We want students to really be, a part of the IEP process and know who they are as learners. So self-determined people know what they want and use their self-advocacy to get it, okay? So when we look at self-advocacy, and Sue and Katie did make reference to this as well, on the back table there is a Patton handout that talks about understanding self-advocacy. And how it's defined is understanding rights and responsibilities, speaking up for your rights, and then making choices and decisions to affect your life. And one of the acronyms that we have here is called SHARE. So when you are going to advocate for yourself, this is something just to use for the children. You sit up straight, you have a pleasant tone of voice, you activate your thinking, you relax, and you engage in eye contact. You own it, okay, because you're here and you're advocating for yourself, and you're going to be that person. So Ms. Brown asked me when she asked me to attend, she said, how about some resources? So that was my kind of primary role of coming up with some resources, and we could go into all of the websites, but I thought let's try to give you some hot ones that you can go into and you can explore. So on the back of this self-advocacy, the list is here of resources, okay? LD Online, wonderful website for learning disabled. Go on, you can search what you're looking for, and a resource comes up. It can be modified again to any age group. Job Accommodation Network is one, again, Sue and Katie spoke about, in terms of when you get a job and you're looking for ADA accommodations, how are we going to get these accommodations? What are reasonable accommodations? That's something that students and children need to know about. What are the reasonable accommodations that an employer needs to provide? That website will give you that information. Okay, so all of them kind of are on the back here of this handout. The Center for Parent Information and Resources, again, another place for you to go if you're just looking for is really kind of a cluster of everything. And then the next slide, Sean, I'm going to ask you, have you ever heard of the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network?
Sadly, I've never heard of that.
Okay, so when Sean was up here speaking, I thought, oh, Sean, this might be one that you really want to take a look at. So the purpose of the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network is where they build self-determination leaderships of Pennsylvania youth. And again, great opportunities. I don't know if they're looking for spokespeople, but sometimes they are. And, if you go on here, there's videos of students, ADHD, emotional disturbance, students with autism, students with intellectual disabilities. They're on here talking about how they've navigated the world and how they've advocated for themselves and they've empowered themselves. And so their role then is to go out and empower other individuals and to give them the courage to have a voice and the skills to have a voice and be their own leader. So that is definitely one, Sean, you might want to take a look at, okay? Okay. Again, for parents, now I will tell you this site does link to the Pennsylvania Secondary Transition guide. However, we are in the process of switching it over, so some of the links aren't active. I wanted to mention it to you, but some of the links just aren't active right now because we are having a transition. So that was a quick summary of just a lot of resources and things that you can take advantage of. If you're interested, we do have the state transition conference that is out in Penn State, and that's in the summer. So if you're interested, you can look on the Patton website for that. That will be in July, okay? But it's not yet open, but should be shortly. So any questions? I silenced the crowd.
Good job.
I know. Is that a good thing? Yes, there are. I'm not sure what the cost would be if there is a cost, but I can take a look and let you know exactly how they're running it this year. But I know the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network always has sessions, and they're a big part of our transition work that we do. So we really make sure that we work arm in arm with them. But I can get you that information for sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And you can keep all the handouts.
Great.
And give them out.
So if you're watching online, we are going to link all of these resources on the website. And there will be plenty more in district office if there's a particular handout. And I believe they're all on Patan's website if you want any of those resources as well. So we thank everyone for coming out tonight. And again, this was our last meeting for the 2018-19 school year. So we look forward to putting out a schedule for the fall for next school year. So thank you to all of our speakers and everyone who came out tonight. Have a great night.